Welcome back, everyone. Well, I can tell you firsthand, and I'm sure one of my guests can as well, that one of the most difficult transitions is going from boyhood to manhood. And the pressures that you feel, peer pressure, societal pressures, who some of the quote-unquote role models might be, can be very confusing. And let's face it, you don't have to think more than 2 seconds to realize that given our current situation, that if you're a young man, you could be very, very confused as to what is acceptable behavior and what isn't acceptable behavior and how you handle that. And joining me today is Maggie Frank, a frequent guest here, who runs Wellspring in Saratoga, and Dave Sunkis, who's a recipient of an award that we're going to tell you about. So first, welcome both of you. Very nice to have you back again. Great to meet you, Dave.
Nice to be here.
Maggie, just in case, every time we do this, but just tell us a bit about Wellspring.
Okay. Wellspring is the domestic violence agency for Saratoga County and rape crisis service agency for Saratoga and Washington counties. And our vision is to end relationship and sexual abuse.
Now, in the context of that, which is very sweeping, by the way, affects all races, ages, genders, some things that you don't think about because you tend to want to box that into one specific situation, but it isn't. It's a very broad topic to talk about. But one of the things that I do know that you run into frequently is men or boys who have sort of lost their way, don't really know who they are or what they're doing sometimes, right?
Yeah, and I think sometimes those acts of aggression are not intentional.
Right.
They're just, they've become normalized.
Right, exactly right, which is the whole point. You became aware of a program called Coaching Boys to Men.
Coaching Boys into Men, yes. It was developed back in the early 2000s by an organization called Futures Without Violence. And the concept of coaching boys into men is using the coaches of boys' teams to talk with them about things like respectful language and responsibility, and to teach them how to be men.
How to do that, right? Yes. I think the operative word in that is how. And if you think about it, there are fewer relationships, right, David, that are more connected than a coach to the boys in their team.
Absolutely.
Now, you're athletic director.
Correct.
You're the big dog at Paulson Spa.
You could say that.
Yeah, with respect, okay? Look at Dave. All right, this is respect time here. It's a wonderful position to be in. It takes a certain kind of person, Dave, dedicated and caring, and, you were exposed to this program.
Yes.
When you first looked at the program, what did you think?
Well, initially I thought it was a good avenue for us to be able to help our student athletes with things that they're really not comfortable talking about.
Right.
Even when things go bad for some of our student athletes, they look for an avenue to vent. And most of the time when they do that, it's in a negative way. Yeah. So this was something that we thought that we could bring to them to help them and guide their behavior through their high school years.
Now, you've been involved with Boston Spa for a better part of 17 years,
yes,
and athletic director for the past 6 years.
Correct.
You've seen it all.
I don't want to say that, but I've seen a lot.
You have, yeah, I bet you have. When you started working this program with the students, with the boys, what was kind of the first reaction?
Well, the first reaction is it's something new, it's change, so people are hesitant. And there's a period where we have to get people to understand that this is something that's going to help them. Once we got through that point, it really was an avenue for our coaches who, let's face it, even they are uncomfortable with some of the situations that arise with their student athletes. And it really gives them an avenue to, if something bad does happen or if there is an issue that we need to talk about, we have an advocate on Wellspring that we can use. Right. So sometimes, like I tell my coaches, sometimes it's better to punt.
Yeah, sure. Got it.
It really gives professionals the ability to come in and help us with situations if they do arise.
I'm sure it is so foreign to some of these boys, given the fact that they're inundated with all of this peer pressure and what they think society is like, and all of a sudden they're learning about respect and they're learning about responsibility. Do you find in that situation that it's better to go one-on-one with a student or better to do it in a group?
No, for me and what I've seen, it's really better to do it in a group.
Yeah.
When you have that one-on-one interaction with a kid, the other kids don't see that interaction. So if there is a time that they do have to speak up or they do have to report something, they really feel reluctant to do that because they feel like they're ostracized. When it's developed as a team bonding type of
Yeah,
atmosphere,
got it.
it becomes a norm. So
Yes.
it allows them an avenue, God forbid if something does happen or if there's an issue that they do need to talk about, it gives them an avenue to say, hey, there's a coach, there's Wellspring, there's somebody there that we can discuss this.
Do you find that plenty of these topics are very uncomfortable because they can run through domestic violence, they can run through bullying, they can run through sexual harassment? You know, a lot of times you're talking about kids that are 14 to 17, 18 years old, right? These are very impressionable kids who don't really know their way yet. Do you find that after a while there's a comfort level with these kids?
Yeah, I do, and I think it's really recreating the norm, like we talk about. Some of their language and their posture and their interactions with each other aren't appropriate.
Yeah, right.
But a lot of them don't see it when they interact with each other as inappropriate, which is one of the biggest issues. And this is something that really helps in bringing those things to light.
Now, if you run into a situation, I think you were just referring to this, if you do run into a situation where you need a little more help here, Maggie, you and your team, you would come in and talk to Dave and the other coaches and try to help guide them through it.
We're there every week for the coaches. We maintain contact with them. If there's a conversation they don't know much about, maybe it's about digital citizenship, how to be respectful on social media, and they're not really into that. We'll work the coach through how you have this conversation with the boys.
I've got it. Oh, there's so much we could talk about this. Look, one of the reasons that Dave is here is that he's being recognized. Real honor, too, by the way.
Thank you.
For your work. Wellspring has their Changemakers event coming up. It's Wednesday the 28th. There are tickets available, and this is a great way for us to show support for what they're doing, which is the future, okay? It's at Prime again?
It is.
It is, oh, good. It's Wednesday, March 28th. There are still tickets available. The website is wellspringcares.org, wellspringcares.org, and you'll find out all the information. And you've been seeing a phone number on the screen. Make sure that you call. And at the event, you will be honoring Dave and some others who are really
we have
making
two
a difference.
honorees this year. Yeah, we have the Saratoga Springs Downtown Business Association and Dave, because what we do is we honor everybody who's part of that change to end relationship and sexual abuse.
There's something else that I think we can do here. This is the program. I went through it. I took a look at it. It's very direct. It's very simple, and it's very, very powerful. Contact Wellspring if you're a coach, if you're working with young people, and find out how you can get involved to help mentor them. It's a phrase you don't hear often in our society today, unfortunately, but mentoring our young people is so important to them during these years of development. And Maggie, great to see you as always. Thank you for coming in.
Yes.
Pleasure to meet you, Dave.
Pleasure's
really
all mine.
takes a certain kind of person to just have that sense that you do. And I'm sure you're having a real positive impact on these kids. That's so important. And congratulations, you're getting your award.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're quite welcome. I'll see you again. To see this interview again, you can head to our website, looktvonline.com.